Okay, we're live. Tiago, welcome to the show.
Thank you very much for having me.
Thanks for coming. So did I see you had a CrossFit competition at the weekend?
Yeah, just a few days ago, a CrossFit team competition. It's really, I think, my favorite style of competition is working as a team member.
Did you win?
Yeah, we won. It was nice.
Nice.
It was on the beach, lots of outdoor, so lots of running, swimming, paddle, also CrossFit style workouts. And it was a 2-day competition. It was with 70 male teams, and we won it. It was nice.
Nice. Congrats.
Thank you.
But off season wise at the moment, you're primarily training for a triathlon, right?
Yes, I've done a few triathlons lots of years ago, not like professional level or high-end level, but I've done a few. And since always, I wanted to do an Ironman, but I've been finding new sports and I've been trouble finding the time to train for it. So I'm starting by a 70.3, commonly half Ironman, and then next year probably I'll do an Ironman. So my off season will be 3.5, 4 months training for a half Ironman. Yes.
Okay, and that means lots of training volume, I'm guessing.
I don't have that much time, so I'm keeping the training volume as it was on my regular HYROX season. So 10, 11 hours a week. I'm keeping 2.5 to 3 hours of strength training because that's a weakness of mine, and I don't want to lose more strength to the next HYROX season. But I'm not doing any HYROX specific workouts, just 1 or 2 CrossFit style metcons to keep the intensity high. And then I'm swimming 2 times or 3 times per week, but just 45 to 50 minutes, trying to take the most out of it. Biking mostly indoors, 3 sessions of 75, 90 minutes, and running 2 times per week, just like that. But it's around 10 to 12 hours each week. But I believe that in September, I'll need to bring that up to 14, 15 hours because I have to do some outdoor long bike rides, like 3.5, 3 hours at least.
Okay. You mentioned not having much time. From the outside, it looks like you do a lot. So you're a coach. You've got your own box, right?
Yeah.
And you work in the police?
Yeah, I'm a special unit police commander. So it's kind of not the regular police. It's kind of more similar to an army unit. So I'm head of the K9 unit, but we have several areas that we need to work on all over the country. But I'm just like the manager, the commander. The best thing that I have here, it's we have very good conditions to train. And since we have physical tests and also technical and tactical tests, we have every day 90 minutes to train. So I'm responsible also for the training in my unit. I can adjust and I have instructors, but I can do my own training in my working hours. Since I have lots of briefings and meetings, I can't always do like my my agents do, but usually I can train around 11:30 to 1 p.m. I have like specific training time. So that's most of my training is done here on my work. And then I have my own CrossFit affiliate. I'm owner and head coach. I also teach HYROX classes. I'm HYROX master coach. I have my online program, and I have like a few other projects that I do.
How'd you fit it all in?
It's mostly efficiency and discipline. When I was 10, I started on a military boarding school, and since then, I've been very rigorous about my schedule, my agenda, in everything that I do. It doesn't work any other way because I also have 2 young kids, a wife, and so also I need to manage and fit all that in a day. So I'm always running from one side to the other. I try to be the most efficient as I can. Even people sometimes make fun of it because when someone approaches me, and I get approached a lot to ask me things about not only here in my job, but also in my affiliate and when I'm training, I always ask them to walk with me or train with me if they want to have time to talk to me. They can come along with me during my warm-ups or in my stationary bike trainings, and that's mostly when I have free time to talk to people.
Yeah, yeah. All right. If we talk about your training a little bit, so you're 40 years old now, is it?
Sorry,
Are
couldn't.
you 40 years old?
40, yes. I'm doing 41 tomorrow.
Okay. Oh wow.
No,
Okay. So do you feel like your training has changed, not just because of the sport, but like because as you've aged, does it look differently to what it might have looked 15 years ago, for example?
Not exactly because of my age, mostly because of my occupation and all the things that I have to fit in a day. Because I think that's the age is also a big issue and a variable that one needs to take into account. But the most important thing is the recovery. If you have time to recover, if you have like, if you are a professional athlete, even if you are 40, 42, 43 years old, I think you can fit in 2, 3 trainings each day because you then can recover properly between them and between the harder sessions. But since I sleep like 6 hours a day, and most of the times I don't have any resting periods during the day, I usually don't sit around in my chair in my office for more than 15 to 20 minutes straight. So I try to don't overdo it and try to recover properly. Between 60 to 90 minutes, I think it's what I allow myself to do, because this is not just an age issue, it's also a priority issue, because I don't want to spend more than 10 to 12 hours a week training, because I compete, I love competing, it's part of my life, it's part of who I am, but I have a family, I have a job, I have responsibility, so I need to balance things very, very carefully.
Yeah, yeah. You mentioned recovery there, like aside from just not leading a crazy busy life and working and everything like that, do you have any specific recovery strategies that you think are important?
I'm not the best example in terms of nutrition, sleep, rest. I'm not, because all my life I've been overdoing and under resting. So my system is kind of used to that. But I think that one of the things that I've changed over the last year and a half, 2 years, it's I try to get a sports massage like every week. So Fridays or Thursdays, I try to have the time to find the time to have like a 60 to 70 minute sports massage, and I think that really helps me to recover. And then it's that common things like drinking the biggest quantity of water that I can. Try to eat properly. I'm not very restricted with my eating, but I try to put the good calories in. Supplementation, I've just started a few weeks ago, trying to be more specific and more careful about it. But I think that's mostly it's like the for you to succeed in sports, the most important thing is training, and training smartly and sometimes hard, and being having the right mindset. But nutrition is important, sleep is important, but I think they are overrated, to be honest.
Okay, okay. So on the training smart, do you feel like there's any either mistakes that are commonly being made by HYROX athletes, or mistakes that maybe you've made in the past when training for HYROX that you're now like resolving?
Yeah, I've made them. I still make them, and I have lots of athletes that make mistakes, because not all athletes are 100% coachable. Even if you tell them exactly what they need to do, they have their own mindsets. They have their own trust issues. They are always one of the biggest problems, I think, is for athletes that are competitive and that have the time to train. I have a lot. They are not professionals, but they work on the fitness industry, so they have the time. They can manage their schedule, and they train a lot. They have time to train, and most of them, they like to overtrain or under rest. I don't know what designation you prefer, but they see other guys training and they always want to do more and more and more. And when you want to do more, you can't do things properly, because what I try to explain to them is that every workout um, has an influence on the next workout or in the previous one. So if you do them higher or in a higher intensity that it should be done, you are either not taking advantage of or recovering properly from the previous workout, or you are compromising the next workout that was supposed to be done on a very high intensity. So I think that it's not necessarily doing a lots of volume, because you can do a lots of volume in lower intensities, and that's not necessarily bad for you, but it's doing too much at high intensities. That's also, I think, as I've mentioned, I think that comes from mostly self-confidence issues and comparing yourself to other athletes. And one of the things that I've learned over the years, I don't know if I should say this, but I don't follow in social media almost any elite athlete, male or female, in the HYROX world, because I have a lot of things to do, and then if I start watching them, this guy is training. Sometimes it's true, sometimes it's just like a resume of their week, but you see the stories and the lives, and you start thinking these guys are training much more than I am, and that can have a negative impact. So I prefer not to watch it. But I know that most of my athletes, even the higher, the best athletes that I have, some of them are like that and are always comparing and watching, and that sometimes can be a real issue.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. We put up a post about concurrent training and the interference effect recently on the website and on Instagram, and you commented on it and said, like, as HYROX athletes and coaches, we have a lot to learn probably from the CrossFit community, who have got the engine, who have got the strength, and who've been training hybrid for many years. What do you think that we've got to learn from them for hybrid training? Is there anything that stands out to you?
I think that when I say this, I'm comparing CrossFit to HYROX, because CrossFit, it's not that old, but it has like almost 20 years now as a competition sport. I believe the game started in 2006 or something like that. So, but I believe that over a decade, they have been trying to have a more scientific approach, especially on this last 5 to 6 years since Matt Fraser and Tia-Clair Toomey showed up. They started to have a very different approach to training. But that was just like an example, because I think that we can go and learn much more from athletics, from swimming, or from, for example, triathlon, because they have been developing very specific training protocols for like 20, 30, 40 years, and they have been testing and implementing them in thousands of athletes. And so they have like a very, very good base and results that we can apply. But HYROX is very specific, and I think that what is closer to HYROX is CrossFit. So when I go and use the CrossFit example, is more related to the training and how to split like a week of training. Because in HYROX you don't see a lot of people training skill or training technique. It's probably a mistake that we don't do. CrossFit is very, very focused on efficiency, and so if you want to have like a very good level or a top level, you need to be almost perfect executing the movements, and that's something that we fail to do in HYROX. We try to find some techniques, but most of them we look to the elite athletes and we try to replicate them, but we are all different. So a coach needs to find the specific strengths of an athlete, the specific characteristics of an athlete, and try to adapt the specific movements of an HYROX event to that athlete. Even if two athletes are similarly built, if one is stronger in the run, he needs to approach the rowing or the skier differently. He needs to use probably more his upper body and less his posterior chain on the lower body, so that he can run properly afterwards. So this is something that we need to really focus. And I think that in CrossFit, I know some very good coaches, Portuguese, Spanish, and they are starting to do that for a few years now. And in the United States and Northern Europe, probably for 8 to 10 years, they pick and try to see the specific characteristics of that athlete and how he can perform more efficiently on each one of the movements. And then they also have something that they have been implementing for lots of years. We call it concurrent training, compromise running, but they do a lot of metcons where you do like some monostructural pieces, rowing, skiing, running, and then you have to do heavy power cleans, or you have to do other types of movement. They are not necessarily HYROX movements, but the way that the workout is built, the way that we use our energy systems, the way that we need to catch up with our breathing, all of those things that CrossFit has been developing, we can use them to HYROX. And as I say, lots of my intensity workouts are CrossFit Metcons. You need to use simple movements because not all HYROX athletes know to do a correct power clean and jerk or a correct power snatch. But if you use like front squats, or if you use like power cleans or deadlifts, things like that, you can then replicate the same feeling and the same movement pattern and the same breathing pattern that you are going to find in HYROX.
Okay, yeah, makes sense. All right, thank you. You've got a really good article on your website about what makes a high performance athlete, and there was I think 5-6 different categories that you believe make a high performance athlete. Can we talk through that some more?
Yeah, we can, and we can like have a different perspective from the article, something more that people are going to understand, more like commonly understandable for regular athletes. There are lots of things that I think that make a high performance athlete. I have reduced to a few categories just because it's easier to put in an article, but there are a lot of things. And if you try to analyze the article, yeah, one can say that there are many more things that you can put in there, and it's very arguable if those are the most important ones. So it depends really of the perspective. But I think that what really differentiates a top performer from a regular performer, you have to have like a basic or a common ground of physical abilities, physical skills, that's for sure, because if you don't have them, you'll never reach a specific level, or you'll never be on a top level. But then it's like the mindset. Mindset is a thing that we commonly use, and it can mean a lot. But when I say mindset in terms of sports, it's more, you need to be resilient, and resilient is not resistant, because sometimes people make confusion. Resilient is, in sports, to me, it's when things go bad or when things don't go according to plan, how do you react to them? How do you bounce back? How do you face negative things that happen during a preparation, like an injury, or during a race? You go and do an extra lap, or you go the wrong way into the in zone or the out zone, those kinds of things. So things that can happen, and that's being resilient. Also, if you want to avoid making mistakes, you need to know how to plan. So an athlete needs to be very conscious and very smart, and needs to plan ahead. This doesn't mean you don't need to be paranoid about your tactics or about your race strategy, but you need to plan, and you need to think about the things that might happen and how you are going to react to them. And then there are a lot of things like discipline is really important, because you can be extremely hard as an athlete. You can stand a lot of suffering, but if you don't have discipline and willpower, you will never become an athlete, because a top athlete, because one thing is motivation. That's what's make us, when things are going well, when we are really close to a goal, motivation really works. But when we are like a year away from a goal, or when we are injured, or when we are very tired and need to wake up at 6 a.m. during a travel to train, that's discipline. And that's that's something that is really, really important. And discipline sometimes has a problem, because we need also to know how to listen to our body and how to adapt, because an athlete also needs to be adaptable. And this is something that happens to me, and I think that happens to almost every top athlete. You have like an angel and a devil, and sometimes they are discussing if, okay, I'm feeling that I'm very tired, I'm almost getting injured, but on the other hand, the devil is telling, no, this is your body telling you that you are weak, that you don't want to train, and you are finding excuses not to train. And so I'm sure this happened to you a few times. To me, it happens a lot. And one is really trying to find your balance and finding the best way to deal with these situations, because you need to adapt to the circumstances. Your body is almost sometimes, and that happens, starting to be very injury prone, or you are very tired, and that workout is not going to have a positive effect on you. But on the other hand, you don't want to fail. And discipline sometimes can be a tricky thing, a tricky question. I believe that in my specific case, 99% of the cases, I go through discipline. So I do it because I don't like to fail. I don't like to quit. I think that quitting, it's a mindset. And I've never gave up in any event, and I've done hundreds, except for 1 or 2 times, but injured, that's prevented me to keep on going. But even when things went really wrong, I got sick. Sometimes things go really, really bad, not according to plan, and okay, I don't have a chance. But I never quit, because that's something that's in me, and I'm really afraid and scared that if you do it one time, that can be very easy to do a second time, a third time, because it's like something I say, and I'm going off topic here, but it's something I say, it's to my kids, to my co-workers, to my athletes: integrity. You only lose it once. And I think the same about this quitting mindset. So if you one time miscount your reps, and you are conscious about that, sometimes it's a mistake, or if you take a shortcut, that's something that you will regret forever. And myself as a coach, as a fellow athlete, I will never again have 100% trust. So when about comes further away, like 1 year ahead or something, I'll always have some issues to trying to find out if it was true or not, because I'm not 100% confident on that. People, that's integrity, and that's the same about giving up or quitting. I think that's something important. So I think that to become like a top athlete, you really need to be disciplined. You really need to be also humble. Also, there's a balance here. You need to be humble, but you need to be, or should I say, you need to be very, very self-confident and believe in yourself, and knowing that if you are performing at your best, and if you are doing the best of your abilities, you are going to win. Because I believe that everyone's goal as an athlete is to win. I'm not a very big fan of those sports quotes like "it's me against myself" and my best version. Of course, that's something that will happen, but for me, that's a side effect of winning. So I hate losing. I really love to win, but I hate losing, and I think that all those things are like a side effect of trying to win. But I say this, but
Can I just on that
yeah.
on that point, if like in HYROX, if you're going into a race, are you always thinking I can win this? Like let's take the World Championships for example. Were you going into that thinking I can win this, or is there like an element of maybe not?
No. Of course, I was going. I'm totally honest, and I share this without any problem before the competition, because I am very realistic. I know if everything goes as it's supposed to be, I wasn't going to win, and very difficultly I was going to do a top 5. I was completely sure about that, because I know myself, I know the others. I'm not paranoid about the others, but I know, for example, Alex, because I work very close to him, and I know that in normal circumstances, Hunter would be the winner for 3 or 4 minutes ahead of me. Alex would be at least 2 or 3 minutes ahead of me. Then the other guys, you really never know how they are going to show up on that day. But when I say I want to win, for me, this season goal, training 10 hours a week and being 40 years old and having the life that I have, my victory is to be on the Elite 15. And then when I went to the World Championships, I wanted to be on the top 10. Of course, I want to win, but I know it's not realistic. So that was really my goal, and do a good race, do a good time, and try to be on the top 10. So it's when I...
Yeah, makes sense. Yeah, because I mean, sometimes even I think like I think like I want to be the best, and I want to tell myself that like I can win this, but there's like this element of realism in it as well.
Of course.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Thank you. Sorry, I interrupted you there. Did we want to continue talking about the high performance athlete? And
if you want to ask me any specific questions about the article, I'll be glad to.
Okay. There was another point you made in there about uh, uh, community and support as well.
Yeah.
Do you feel like that's an element that maybe a lot of people miss?
Yeah, for sure, for sure. Especially, I have a lot of athletes in HYROX that train completely apart from their community, or they don't have like a support community, and that makes a lot of difference because when you are in that situation, you are much more vulnerable, especially to what I've told also about social media. You try always to compare yourself, and you see, oh, this guy always has people to train with. This guy is always training, and so you tend to do and watch that in a negative perspective. For myself, for example, I've always been like a leader in my community, and I have a lot of people that want me to succeed and that follow my path in different sports. When I was doing Spartan races, when I was doing trail running, in CrossFit, I have my fellow athletes from my CrossFit team. They are like the best friends that I can have to train, because when I'm like 1 month away from a competition and I need to do HYROX simulations or I need to do very specific compromised trainings, they are always available. And for example, if they can't run at my pace, but if one of them does 400 meters and the other one does another 500 meters and the other one goes side by side with me on the skier, they know exactly the paces that I want to hit and they keep pushing me. And then another one comes to the burpee broad jumps with me. It's very nice because we know each other for many years. We are competitive, but in a positive way. So if I tell them that I want to go at 145 on the rowing, they are not pushing me to 140 or 141 because I know that's not doable and that I will blow up, but they'll probably push me to 143, 144. Or if I tell them I want to run at 340, probably they'll go 5 seconds faster just for me to catch up, because that's something that's going to happen on a race. And that helps a lot. So, and also when we go to the races, to the events, it's very good because if they are in Spain, just here next to Portugal, we are always coming like 30 to 50 athletes from my affiliate and 20 to 30 athletes from my program. Even when we go to the UK, it's not exactly the same, but almost the same. In Manchester, we were more than 20 from my affiliate and more than 50 from my program. So it's kind of a community. We all support each other, but what makes the biggest difference is what I've told. These guys that are always there to me when I need them to train. And I also do that when they are preparing CrossFit competitions, because now it's CrossFit competition season. They are doing some, and I'm always there if I want to prepare themselves in intervals on the assault bike, burpee broad jumps, burpee box jump overs, etc. I'm also there for them if they need. So it's kind of a symbiosis between us. It's very nice.
Okay, great. I think it's I thought it was a really good article, and like the things you discussed, like I'm often wondering what are the similarities between like the Elite 15 in HYROX and what separates them, and like personality wise there's a lot of differences there, but I think a lot of the things that you've discussed are common between them and maybe they do separate them from other athletes in HYROX. So yeah, I thought it was really good. Sort of following on from the mindset element of that, what do you think about during a race when things are getting tough and like you're having to push yourself? Where does your mind go?
Mostly this, not only in racing, but on really hard workouts. I'm a very, very analytical guy. I'm always thinking. So most of the time, my mind is occupied thinking about splits. For example, if I'm doing, for example, Manchester, we were doing 4 laps. I choose an athlete, for example, James Kelly, that was most of the time going back and forth with me. And I see the time that he was coming out of workout. I look at my watch and I was like, okay, I have 12 seconds difference. After the first lap, I had recovered like 4 seconds. And then I am doing that, and without even noticing, that kilometer has passed. So I did that 4 times, and I was watching my clock. And sometimes people get surprised because I can memorize a lot of things and a lot of paces and times. And I was doing that in the race for myself, and at the same time I was doing that for Alex, watching Alex and Hunter, and then watching Alex and Jonathan win. I was able to be watching those things, and I believe that 70 to 80% of the time I'm thinking about numbers and looking at the seconds, not in a paranoid way, but it helps me to pass time. And I'm always doing that. Even when I'm running, I'm counting the steps, I'm counting my breathing, I'm doing a lot of things. But then when things really get tough, and usually I have, as we talked about, community, my wife, my friends, my fellow athletes over there. And when I'm running, I'm always thinking of them and watching them. And it's kind of a sense of proud, because I don't want to leave them bad. I'm not sure if I know the correct way to say this in English. I don't want to fail them, and I want them to see me as an example. And if I slow down, if I show some weakness, then I'm not being the example of a coach or an athlete that they want me to, or that I should be, because I'm the reference, not only as an head coach, as a CrossFit team captain, but also I'm like the only Portuguese/Spanish athlete on the elite. So I know that a lot of people are watching me, and I also like to have that external pressure. It's not something that people put, but I put on myself to be the best example possible, and indirectly to my kids, to my family, but very directly to the other HYROX athletes that I know that I'm representing there. And I really think that that helps me on those weak moments we all have during the race. For me, usually the worst, I have two very black moments on an HYROX race. The first one is on the sled push, because I push to get there in first or second place, but I usually leave the sled push in 10th or 15th or something like that, and I'm learning to deal with that. And that's like a bad moment, or it can be. And the other, it's on the rower. I'm not a bad rower, but I'm small, and when I compare myself to the other elite guys, I think that the effort that they do, what they apply to have a pace higher and better than mine, it's ridiculously easier than to me. And usually on the rowing, it's when you have the time to think. You have like 3.5, 4 minutes where you can see your place in the run. You can look to the others, you can look around, and you can think. That sometimes can be good, but sometimes it's when you have those thoughts of, what am I doing here? I'm really crazy to be suffering here. But those are the moments when I need to think about the people that support me, the people that see me as an example, and I try not to fail them. And that's mostly what I think of.
Okay. Would it be a similar, like, if I asked you what keeps you motivated and what keeps you wanting to come back and race HYROX and do Ironman and all these things? What is that? Is it just to be a good example? Is it just because you love it?
Not really. Just I'm very competitive. I'm not sure why. This is something probably from my upbringing. I really like to do. I like challenges, so don't misunderstand me. I don't like easy things. For example, when I was doing Spartan races, I would only go to the Spartan races where the best athletes were. If there was like an OCR European Championship happening, I wouldn't be racing a Spartan race on that weekend, because that would be too easy. So without adversaries. So I like challenges, but also I look for things where I think I can succeed and thrive, but with work and with training. So trail, Spartan races, HYROX, CrossFit team competitions. But it's the competition part that drives me. It's the knowing that I am good at that specific thing, but I really need to work to be the best, or to be one of the best. And then when I'm doing them, the other things come into play: the legacy, the example, the not failing to others. So trying to positively influence other people through sports, people changing their lives because of me. That's something that I value a lot. That's something that along the way helps me to keep going and not giving up. But that's not the thing, I need to be honest, that's not the thing that's put me there in the first place. That was competition.
Yeah. Okay. How about what's the toughest thing you think you've done in sport?
I think that what was the hardest thing for me, it was back in, I believe, 12 to 13 years ago. I did a 101-kilometer trail run in Spain in the heat, and I was not prepared to it. My longest training was like 25 kilometers or something. So I raced really well until kilometer 40, 50. Then I suffered for 20 kilometers, and then I can't remember my last 30 kilometers. So it was really, 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 really hard. I got stopped 2 times from by the organization. They put me into a tent. They weren't letting me finish the race. And then the last time that they stopped me, I was like 5 kilometers away from the finish line. But I was still like in the top 200. They were like 3,000 or 5,000 people, so it wasn't that bad. But they weren't letting me, so I had to run away from them just to finish the race. It was really nice, but it was something that it took me probably 1.5 days to recover. When I say recover, it's to be able to like walk and eat and do normal human being things. And then I got sore for a lots of weeks. I did hard trail runs and ultra trail runs, but that was like the first one that I did, and I was completely unprepared. So when I say it was the hardest, it was where I suffered the most and for the longest time. I was like 5 hours suffering probably and throwing up, just nothing, not eating. That's something that has marked me. And I've done a few of those things, and usually I do them because it's just to put things into perspective. When you do something like that, or a 80-kilometer run or something, and then you go to a 10K run or a half marathon or to a HYROX event, and you are suffering, or you think you are, you go back to that place and time in your mind, and you think, oh, you have been much worse than than you are now. And at that time, you still had like 30 kilometers to go, and you did it. So get your shit back together and and find a way to finish it. So it's nice sometimes to do things completely out of your comfort zone, where you know you are going to suffer and that you are not going to succeed in terms of competitiveness, just to make sure that during a year and a half, 2 years, you are going to go back to that place and time whenever you need to go, and it will help you.
Yeah, yeah. Felicity Cole said something very similar to me actually. Like when I asked her like about what she thinks about in a HYROX race, and she just falls back on previous like really tough experiences, and it's relatively easy, you know, in a HYROX. So yeah, that's great. All right, thank you. How about your best experience in sport?
I've had a few. I think when I was younger, still in my military school, I did 2 orienteering World Championships. I was like top 10 the 2 times, and Portugal was not very strong country in orienteering. Northern Europe countries were usually the top 20 spots were always to them, and that was really nice. And probably winning Spartan Race Madrid, because it was my Spartan race. It was, I believe, at the time the biggest race in Europe and probably in the world. It has like 12,000 people racing, and it was my first race, and I won it on the elite. So it was a very good feeling. I believe those were my biggest sports moments, I think.
Nice. Okay. All right. Just a couple more questions, if that's all right, before we finish up. One is I don't know if you ever listened to the Tim Ferriss podcast, and he asked some of his guests at the end if you could put a message out to the world on a billboard that could say absolutely anything, what would it be?
Oh, not really sure. I'm not a very quote man. I know a few, but I really like to be the example and try to influence people by the example. But I think that I don't know how to put this in a few words to a billboard, but I think that what the world needs, what people need, is positiveness. So we need to always try to see the glass half full, and that's something that I do. I can't do it every day or in every situation. Sometimes we get angry for things that aren't worth to be angry, and sometimes we react to things in an appropriate way. But I think that I'm a very positive guy, and I help people dealing with sometimes hard and bad situations. Just over these last 2 days, I've had a few with my coworkers and my friends, and I always try to take the weight off their shoulders and try to be positive and there's one thing that I've learned that I can't apply all the time, but I try, is that a lot of things aren't worth the time that we think about them, because sometimes we are afraid of some reactions or things that are going to happen. Then 90 or 99% of the times, those things don't even get to happen. It's just something that we suffer by anticipation. So I think that if we try to be positive, it's something that's going to help us, help the others, and probably help humanity and the world. It's easy to say and hard to be done, but I think that even in small daily issues, if we try to be positive, things can be much better for all, and especially for us. So maybe the billboard could just have like a plus sign, just for one to be
I
positive.
like it. I like it. I've got to say, I think you do that as well. Like, I do a lot of research for these podcasts. I look at a lot of your Instagram posts, a lot of the comments on my posts and everything. And I get the impression that you are a very positive person, quite stoic. And I think that's obviously a good thing. So yeah, I certainly think you do that. How about if I asked you to say who's the first person you think of when I say tell me someone who you think is successful?
Hugh Jackman. Yeah,
Why's
because
that?
we've talked about this like on messages, because I really like the way that he sees the world, he sees things. He's a very humble guy, and also very, very successful, not just in terms of his work, his job, but his achievements in life. He was someone that started his career very late. He started like when he was 27, 28. He got out of drama school. So it's an example of resilience, of not giving up, and also is someone that really cares about others and about legacy, about his family, about his kins. So I think that is a true example of success, not just financial success or social success. And for example, if you see that something that it's not by chance, is likability or likable rate in Australia, it's like 99 point something percent, is like the most endorsable person in Australia over the last 15 to 20 years. So that's something that it's very difficult to achieve, because in a competitive world, you always have people that are jealous and are negative about you. And when that doesn't happen in our world, it's whether that's something very strange, and you need to be a really special person to have that, because but most of all, is an example of hard work, smart work, not compromising his values, or not putting his goals and his objectives over his life values. And I think that's something that's very, very important. But we need to be successful, but not at any cost. And I think that is a good example of that.
Great answer. All right. Thank you. What's your HYROX plans for the upcoming season? Do you know where you're going to be racing yet?
Yeah, I'll be racing during my Ironman prep. I'll be racing in September in Madrid, but in doubles with my wife. She doesn't like endurance, but she comes from a CrossFit background. But over the last 2 years, she has been doing some HYROX events. So we'll be doing a doubles mixed in Madrid in September. And then I will take probably the best Portuguese athletes to do the first relay that's going to happen in Spain, also in Madrid. They are all my athletes and they train with me. So in September, mixed relay, mixed doubles and mixed relay in Madrid. And then probably only in December, I'll get back to do a pro race. And I'm not sure if Frankfurt, probably a race in Germany or something like that, because I need also to have time after the Ironman, because I'm going to lose strength, I'm going to lose weight, and I'm not a strong athlete, and I'll need time to get back on track and try to qualify. I would love to qualify again, but the level is rising a lot. I need to be focused, and with my 41 years old and with my 10 to 12 hours of training per week, it's going to be really difficult, but I would love to achieve that. If not, probably I'll try to go really, really good on doubles or age group. I'll see for the World Championship. But my goal for now is to try to qualify in December or the later in early January to the European and Worlds, depending on the dates, because they haven't been announced. But that's my goal for now. But I'm not obsessed with that. But
Okay. All right, great. Well, thank you for this. I really appreciate it. It's been fantastic. Is there anywhere you want to send people to, your coaching website or anything like that?
Now people know me, so if they want, they'll look for it. If not, I don't want to advertise. So it's nice. It was really nice to be here. I really like to reach out to the community. I'm not a native English speaker, so for those in the UK and the United States, I'm sorry for my English, but I hope that you understand. It's yeah, my first language is Portuguese. I speak 2 or 3 more languages, but not at a very, very good level. So I hope it's understandable at least.
It's been great. You speak better than me, so don't worry about that.
that you speak Portuguese.
Well, yeah, true. All right. Well, thank you for this. I will include some relevant links in the video and podcast descriptions, and hopefully talk to you again soon. All right. Thank you. Take care, everyone.
Bye bye.